Emotional attachment rarely ends dramatically. It fades, not through a single realization, but through repetition of ordinary days. At first, absence feels loud. Attention returns to the same memories. The mind searches for reminders. The past remains central. Then, gradually, it stops being central. Indifference does not appear suddenly. It begins as longer gaps between thoughts. You notice hours pass without recall, then days. When memories return, they no longer interrupt activity. They become observations rather than experiences. This shift is often confusing. Strong emotions are easier to interpret. Pain feels meaningful. Longing feels significant. Neutrality feels like something is missing. But neutrality is not emptiness. It is completion. Earlier, attention was repeatedly drawn back. The mind attempted to resolve uncertainty. The body anticipated familiar emotional patterns. Once those patterns are no longer activated, attention releases automatically. No effort is required. Memories remain, but emotional charge changes. Events are recalled as information, not relived as sensation. You can think about the person without reconstructing the emotional state. This is not suppression. It is integration. Integration occurs when experience is no longer processed as ongoing. The brain categorizes it as past rather than unresolved. Questions lose urgency. Explanations lose importance. The narrative stabilizes without further input. At this stage, recontact feels different. A message does not produce the same acceleration of thought. You evaluate rather than react. Response becomes a choice, not a reflex. The person is perceived proportionally. People often misinterpret this change. They expect healing to feel like happiness. Instead, it feels ordinary. You no longer monitor their actions. You no longer imagine conversations. You no longer anticipate outcomes. The absence of preoccupation feels quiet. What changed was not the past. It was the nervous system's need to organize around it. Stability is now internal rather than relational. Attention is guided by present conditions, not previous ones. Indifference is not forgetting. You remember clearly. But memory no longer directs behavior, mood, or expectation. The experience becomes part of personal history, not current orientation. Because there is no emotional pressure, forgiveness becomes less deliberate. Understanding becomes simpler. Not because everything was resolved, but because resolution is no longer required. Eventually, you notice something subtle. You are no longer trying to move on. You already did. Without marking the day it happened. Without a final moment. The attachment ended not when you decided, but when it was no longer needed.